Back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to do background processing in React Native for Android. This will be a one-time request. So one-time request means like once you open the app, we will configure a one-time request, and once the user has closed the app, after some amount of time the OS will determine when to run this background operation. Once the background operation is finished, if suppose the user opens the app the next day, then still that the background processing would be initiated again, because it is a one-time request, right? So it will be only executed one time and not periodic times, like multiple times. So what I'm doing in my use case is I'm calling an API. I'm getting some data from that API. I'm storing it in preferences data store, which is kind of like a key value data store, but you can use SQLite or Room database as well for Android. And once that background operation is done, once the user opens the app for the very next time, he will be able to see that data which was present inside that key value data store. Now there are the plus point is this approach will work on both old architecture as well as new architecture. The minus point is everything has to be done via native code. There is very little React Native code involved. So yeah, that's what it is like. Calling the API, storing the data in key value store, all will be done via native code. It's very difficult to do it via JavaScript. Yeah, that's what it is. So firstly I will run my application, and currently I'll show you my screen as well. So the application is running, and so what it will do is that as soon as the application is opened, I will start this one-time request, which you can see over here. It calls the API, and as soon as the app is launched I will immediately close it, so that you will come to know that okay, this operation does really happen in the background. Now for development purposes, even though the operation does happen quickly, like for production use cases you can't really guarantee it. So okay, the app is installed. What I'll do is I will immediately close the app. I'll remove this logs, okay, and I have added a log statement that once I get the title from the API, log it to the console as well. So hopefully, so here you can see I'm waiting for an initial delay of 25 seconds. This is just part of simulation. Don't add this in real production use cases, because given though the background operation does run quickly over in development setup, it's not really guaranteed. The OS can take any amount of time, so it's up to the OS. But from what I have noticed, that at least in development setup it works really fast. Also I haven't added any constraints. I will come back to that later on as well, like what really constraints are. But yeah, I think it should happen by now. Like I have given it okay, so let's see if it has printed out anything for us. So here you can see, so this is the title it has printed out. Now what I'll do is that I will go to this demo API which I am calling. I will change this so that next time when it runs we get a different title, but as soon as the app is launched we will get this title from our text view. But the next time we open the app, some different API data has been captured. Okay, so what I'll do is I will rerun my app again, and in the text view you should see this, like I'm not sure how to even pronounce this stuff. I'm using a free API, so this is the title, and I am also printing the body, but I'm not using the body in my text view, but I'm just displaying the title. And what will happen is that the next time the app launches it will display this title, but it will also start another work request, because as soon as the app launches we are starting a work request, right? And after 25 seconds it fetches a new data and it will display some other title. So hopefully I should be able to show it to you guys. So this is my text view. So here you can see I'm displaying the title. Now if I wait for 25 seconds it will call the API again, but I have changed the API endpoint a little bit so that I can get a new title. And here you should see that the text view gets changed. But again there is no, so here you can see the text views text got changed because we have got a new title. But again there is no guarantee that this background operation will run. It can take 24 hours as well, so no guarantee on that. So let's get started. So if you want to enable new architecture you can do that, but yeah, I'm keeping it pretty simple. So inside my app.tsx, what I have done is that I have taken this use state variable and I have taken this use effect. Here we are listening for data from the native side. So if you remember, we were storing the data in preferences data store, right? So if there is some data in preferences data store, I'm immediately sending it back to the React native side as soon as the app is launched. And once we get a data, I'm just displaying it inside our text view. That's it on the React native side. Now the main part is on the native side. So open the Android folder inside Android Studio. Next you will have to go to build.gradle.kts. First update Kotlin version to 1.8.20. Next you will have to use this class path for Dagger Hilt. So Dagger Hilt is used for dependency injection, and we will be using dependency injection because that is the right way of injecting this background. For background processing I'm using WorkManager, and that's how you inject WorkManager inside your application. Don't directly create objects for your constructor using constructor. That is a bad approach. Next go to build.gradle.kts, and here I had to apply this to, I'm still using Kotlin capped, because at the time of recording KSP is still not stable yet, that's why I have to use it. But in future if it is stable you can use KSP. Next over here I need to add this Hilt dependency, Dagger Hilt, this WorkManager dependency. Retrofit is used for making network calls, and data store is used for storing key value data, but instead of data store you can use room database as well. I've also made a video on how to use room database with React native, and this is for coroutines access. Next you will have to go to android manifest.xml. Need to add internet permission. Make sure you add this. I think this is present by default, but if not you should add this. And you also need to add this to initialize your WorkManager. This is a necessary setup. Next you will have to go to first I will show you this post. So this is how the data I get from our API, but I am only using the title and body, mostly the title for displaying text, but I was using the body for console logging as well. But yeah, this you will have to change according to your API response. Next I have created a demo API interface. So this is how you do it for retrofit. So apart from the base URL you can enter the rest of the URL over here, and this is how we get a response, and it is a get request. Okay, next you will have to go to network module, and here I have, so this is like an open source dummy REST API endpoint which gives us back a sample response. That's what I'm using over here. And this is a singleton class which will help us to create a singleton for retrofit as well as our preferences data store. So here we are creating our HTTP client, here we are creating our converter factory of JSON, here we are creating our retrofit instance, here we are creating our API service, and here we are creating our preferences data store. So yeah, next is you will have to go to data source repository, and here you can see this is how we are saving key value data, and it is saved inside the title key. But if you want this key to be dynamic as well, you can pass it via function parameters as well, but just for simplicity I have hard coded the key name, and if there is no value I'm just saying it as default value. Next you will have to go to custom worker. So here again you have to mark it as @Hilt worker, and here you will have to inject all this dependency of demo API, context, worker parameter, data source repository, and here this do work function gets called for background processing. So if I do response dot is successful, then here you can see that I am calling data repository dot save. Sorry, first I'm calling an API over here, okay, using retrofit. If the response is successful, then I am storing it in key value pairs in our preferences data store, and I am giving a success message back. Otherwise I am telling it to retry, and if suppose something goes wrong while calling the API, like the OS decided to run your background operation but the user is not connected to a network, then I am calling result.retry. Otherwise I am calling result.failure. To avoid this use case, there is something called constraints, which you can use to tell your work manager that run my background operation only when there is network connectivity. I will show you that as well in a bit. Next, you will have to go to so I have shown you this. I've shown you this. Next, you will have to go to main application.kt, and here you will have to mark it as @hilt Android app. And next, you will have to add this singleton for hilt worker factory entry point. And here you can see that I have created a custom worker factory, and I am injecting the demo API as well as data source repository. And here I have created our worker, and I am passing the context as well as the worker class name and worker parameters. And here I have created our custom worker by passing all the required parameters to it. And here you will have to use this WorkManager configuration. So here you need to pass the configuration.builder. This you can pass this, you can even comment this out. This is just for debugging purposes. And here in set worker factory, you will have to write entry points.get of this hilt worker factory entry point dot worker factory dot build. So that's it for the main application. Next, going back to the main activity, here you will have to mark it this as @Android entry point. Again, this is part of Dagger hilt. Next, you will have to inject our data source repository, something like this. And here I have overridden this on create method. But another problem is that this is only this thing of setting the initial delay, setting back of criteria is only applicable from Android O. So now that depends on you. Like if you want to run this operation only above Android O, you can use that. Otherwise, you will have to comment these things out as well as this thing if you want to support below Android O as well. Now here I told you, right, you can add some constraints. So you can add some kind of constraints as well. So like you want to run your background operation only when the network is properly connected, and you can do more things as well, like it requires charging, requires battery not low, requires device to be idle. So this kind of constraints you can add, and here you will have to on comment this line. But I wanted to run it as soon as possible, that's why I have didn't apply any constraints. And here we are enqueuing our work request. So this will start our work request. And again, don't add this initial delay time, because this is again just part of my debugging purpose. And here we are retrieving our data. So here I had to add a delay of 10 seconds, because if I didn't add a delay of 10 seconds, I think the issue that was happening was I was immediately sending this data back to React Native side, but there was I think it was taking some time to load up the component, the main app.tsx component on React Native side. So there was no listener to it, and the data was getting lost. You can add, so that's why I had to use this hack. Again, this I think is a shortcoming of React Native side, but if you know a better approach, do let me know in the comments. So I'm again immediately retrieving the data. So here I'm checking if there is any data. If yes, then send it back to the React Native side. So I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I know it was mostly native code, but yeah, that's what it is. Like you will have to write native code. Making this work with JavaScript is extremely difficult according to me. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.